how have you been? Is it just morning, just got out of bed then?
Yeah, it's 11. I got up, got some coffee going,
Hmm.
hanging out.
You've had to come off tour pretty quickly when coronavirus hit. So what would you say has been the most surprising thing to come out of lockdown?
Believe it or not, our band's communication is actually the best that it's ever been. When you have downtime to just kind of have to talk about, like, sit things and just hash things out, it's different when you're on tour because you can just stay busy all day. You can just, like, let's not acknowledge this thing that needs to be fixed because we can just
Yeah.
stay busy, doing tour stuff. I think that we had to sit with each other and had, like, uncomfortable but real ass talks. Like, it's been 10 years now, and
Hmm.
there's just shit, like, so much unresolved stuff from, like, when we were kids that we just never had the time really or desire to really talk about. But it was really good. We just laid everything out and came out of it, like, ready to change things and to move forward positively. And it was crazy because after 10 years you stop listening to any, like, someone's, hey man, I want to talk to you about something, you're like, shut up, shut up before I punch you in the face. It's just stuff like that. It's hard to give people the benefit of the doubt because you know them so intimately well, but people can change, and that's really surprising. For the good of the band, people can change.
Well, that sounds optimistic. So would you say as a band, you guys have been coping pretty well with the lockdown then?
As a band, yes, for sure. I think individually, everybody's kind of going through their own shit. Like, I've just been going crazy. Tree and Hoover, my guitar player and bass player, live together. So I can't imagine just, like, hanging out with just each other for that long. And Brandon Hoover, our guitar player, actually got coronavirus. So he was infected staying in the same apartment as them, so nobody could leave. So it was like the ultimate, like, it would have been one of those movies where two dudes get stuck on, like, a deserted island and, like, they see a mirage and they have to eat them or something. Like, that's what would have happened to me. I don't know. I wouldn't have been able to survive that.
Yeah.
But them having to go through that together is pretty funny. Yeah. But I'm good. I think we're all right. I think overall everybody's okay.
That's optimistic. And you mentioned earlier this year that you guys were putting together a documentary. So can you tell us a bit more about what to expect from it and when to expect it maybe?
Oh yeah, it actually came out this week. Brandon Hoover had been working on it for a few months now and just collecting old footage from old webisodes that we'd had out, live performances and interviews that we hadn't used. We were sitting on all this stuff, and it being the 10-year anniversary coming up, we thought, why not follow through with it? And so he did it all himself, at home, working little by little on it. And it just came out a couple of days ago. It's on YouTube and everything. I think he uploaded it. But yeah, it doesn't feel like 10 years. I still feel like just as ignorant, just as dumb as I did when we started. But being able to look back and see how far we've come, directly cut with interviews of us talking maybe 8 months ago. Yeah. We've come a far way since from there to there, let alone 8 months ago to now. We're in a completely different place. But being able to see that growth, is reassuring in some ways,
Yeah. No, that sounds so sick. And what would you say has been the most important part of the last decade, I guess, for you guys?
Being able to stay with something, like being able to, there was no option B for us. There was no fallback plan. I think when we all decided to join this band, we were in high school, we all had an idea of what a life plan set out for us was, whether it was by our parents or, by themselves. I think Tree was doing really well with hockey and could have continued to do that. And our drummer Taddy was going into pre-med. Mm-hmm. Everybody had different plans, and I think after that first show was when we all kind of mutually decided that we were willing to sacrifice all that stuff if it meant down the road all of us could do this for real. And so 10 years later, I think we did that with each other, and I think that was it's beautiful to see, but then also reevaluate, having to sit with each other and be like, the mark has been changed. Our target was always to get to this point. At one point when we first started, we just wanted to be on Warped Tour one time. You know, like that was our biggest aspiration, and then we did it like 4 times before it ended. Like, you know, having these targets change and setting down the foundations for like future. You know, Tree just got married, you know, last year, and people, they want to set up a future. Like, I couldn't imagine what it's like to own things. I've been living out of a suitcase, like as a nomad for so long, you know, like doing these, you know, I would stay at Airbnbs when I wasn't on tour. So I would just literally just live out of the same suitcase for, you know, since, I don't know, 2015 maybe.
Yeah.
So starting to plan for like, okay, maybe I could own some things, you know, maybe I could like have familiarity in my life, like that. It doesn't sound as scary anymore, you know.
Yeah, like
especially with the state of the world. Yeah.
Oh, and I mean, that kind of brings us on to the next question. How does it feel seeing the current world kind of slowly inching and creeping towards some of the dystopian fictions that you guys have painted in some of your albums?
I think it's so, I mean, these were stories, you know. We would escape into these worlds to get away from what's happening here, but I want to go back, you know. I was like, oh, this is so much scarier. I'm so confused and scared all the time now. But yeah, you definitely take real life, you know, for granted. And I think spending too much time in the real world is just as scary as spending too much time in an imaginary one sometimes, you know?
Yeah, it feels like reality is kind of caught up at this point.
Yeah, it's definitely. I saw a dog in riot gear the other day. I was like, people are just getting bulletproof armor for their dogs at this point. I was like, I'd love to see it. You know, it's only a matter of time. Who's gonna take over? You know, who comes out on top?
Yeah.
Dogs, cats? I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, with the 2020 elections coming up, honestly, who knows?
Anything's possible. Here's the thing. Everything's a joke. It's a simulation. Nothing's real at this point. So who knows? It might be me. Vote for me.
We're all just brains in a vat, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, and I know that you mentioned for the band, you guys actually have become more connected over lockdown, but do you think society and as a whole will become more or less connected as we come out of it?
Oh, it's hard to say. I think one thing certain is that it's not going to be the same for a long time. I think there was already, you know, little pockets of, with the internet, you could go into any group and find somebody that you all are part of the same thing, like the flat earthers, you know. Like, I feel like being able to kind of recess into your own, you know, bubble of whatever thing is being extrapolated with this downtime. And it's like the internet is supposed to be able to bring people that wouldn't hear each other's opinions closer together, you know. And I think it's dangerous that it's a war zone. Like, you can't say anything. You're like, hey, today I had a good day, and someone's like, yo, go fuck yourself, how could you say this? I was just like, like, there's no I'm just, right now I'm just trying to keep my head down and avoid the crossfire, really.
Yeah,
you know, that's it. I just want to stay alive. That's my game. That's my end game here. It's the guy that doesn't die, like Game of Thrones, you know. Like, I'm not doing anything cool really, but I'm just also trying not to die.
Fair enough. I feel that. And on that note, do you think social media and the internet has been more of a help or a hindrance, especially considering the echo chamber effect that it can have?
I think it goes either way. You know, I think people are capable of learning and growth when it connects to them in whatever way resonates with them most. Like, I think a lot of people were on the internet attacking people, but then, you know, when a YouTuber gets attacked that they look up to, they're like, wait a second, actually this person could be, you know, is capable of growth, and maybe we can forgive them for this, and they can move on from this thing, you know. They've come out and apologized, all kinds of different shit, you know. Like, I'm just happy that people are finally getting to the discussion that it's more complex. There's a gray area. Not it doesn't involve shitting on everything that isn't follow the narrative that you're on, but the answer is somewhere in the gray, you know. And I that's what I've always wanted to strive for, you know. I mean, I don't know. I'm not the guy, you know. I'm not the guy. No one should be listening to me about anything. You know, I scream at people for a living, and I'm upset most of the time. So don't take what I'm saying, but that's how I see the situation. As naive as it may sound, or as, you know, not offensive as it may sound, really. I don't know.
Yeah.
Someone's gonna be mad at that. Someone's gonna be mad at that, is what I'm saying.
There's
sorry.
always to be someone mad on the internet, though, I feel like.
Yeah.
What would you say has helped keep you sane over lockdown?
I'm not sure I'm there. I think I'll let you know when I find out. I think, for me, I had a tendency to just, whenever I had a free moment that I wasn't on tour, I would just attach myself to like the things that I like doing. You know, like I do jujitsu when I'm off tour, and so if going from that level 10 intensity to nothing, like that uncomfortable few days where I'm like screaming in my sleep or like just whatever the adjustment phases in my brain, I push myself to 1,000 degrees in that direction, you know, or like I'll fight for 4 hours a day and I won't be able to like move the next day, but at least I got to, I sent it at 100%. And so, having the downtime to just be like, oh, I'll just play video games. And it's like, oh shit, I played 18 hours of video games or something today. Or, you know, you're like, oh, who am I? Like having all these moments with all these things that I would typically just kind of like binge, and like these little percentages were just fucking running rampant. My life was like out of control, spiraling out of control for a minute. But, you know, it's nice to kind of get a good look at yourself and be like, okay, shit, the ride is slowing down a little bit. I'm good, you know?
Yeah.
But that's what it felt like, for sure.
Be with yourself and sit with it.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it was, really. I think there was a lot of shit that I hadn't worked through and, like, wouldn't allow myself to really feel. You know, I think having everybody be dropped into the situation like that out of the blue, you know, it's a little. If I had known that I was going to be going through shit, I would be prepared for it, you know? But it comes up and it bubbles in different ways. And I think it's been nice it's been comforting knowing that the other musician friends of mine have reached out and be like, oh my God, are you okay? Like, holy shit, I'm so scared, you know? Like, stuff like that. Like, it's nice to know that I'm not going through it alone. And if you do feel like that, then be sure to reach out to other homies that might feel the same, you know? That was such a big thing for me, too, while I've been locked up. But, yeah, sorry for...
And I guess kind of moving on to a couple of more light-hearted questions now. So what do you think is what's the biggest plot twist you can imagine for the remainder of 2020?
Oh, I think I was interested in Swine Flu Part 2 coming back. Like the new one that they just heard. I think it would be cool if there was like a faction. Like instead of all the other bullshit everybody else is, it goes straight into people that got corona versus people that get swine flu, and that becomes and that's the war. That's the gang war that ends all wars, and then everybody's happy for the rest of the time.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah.
If you could have a clone for a day, what would you do?
Probably wrestle myself, because I think fighting people that are around my size is so, I'm pretty small and everybody's really big and beats the shit out of me a lot of the time. So me knowing how I play my game and playing someone that plays the same game as me would be really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd fight myself.
Nice. I mean, that sounds slightly self-destructive, but I guess that's a clone.
Yeah.
If you were a drink, what drink would you be?
In my head, I'd be like an old fashioned because it's like classy and regal and kind of straight to the point. But I think I'd be something like a Long Island iced tea, like kind of trashy and like falling all over the place.
Love that.
Yeah.
If you had an alter ego, what would it be called? And can you describe what it would be like?
I think I already do. I think because my name's Andrew Rockhold, but I've always gone by Andy Leo because I had to like go into a different headspace to be someone that was that. I had to be a different person to lose myself in the moment like that for a while. Mm-hmm. I heard about Beyonce doing it and I was like, I get that, you know? And so I created that persona because I'm very fucking soft and afraid, but you know, on stage I feel like the opposite.
Yeah.
And so I kind of go in there with that.
Mm-hmm. So would you say this is more a persona that aids your creativity then?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, there's an idea of what I wish that I was or how I perceive myself and then how I actually feel all the time. which is, you know.
And do you ever find that the two get mixed up, particularly when you're writing vulnerable lyrics, or is it pretty separate and detached most of the time?
I think I think this last record was about that specific thing, like marrying the two. I think keeping the two separate felt like I wasn't being honest with myself, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like I couldn't take those feelings seriously unless I was a different person, and then treating it like a split personality wasn't fair to either of them, you know? I think that you have to have both. You have to be able to laugh at something and just as much as you can cry at something, you know? I think you have to be, you know, you don't have to be an angry person all the time, but you can't be fully soft either, you know? I think that's where I am.
Nice. And going back to something slightly lighter, if you could commit any crime and get away with it, what crime would you commit?
I'd steal a Cybertruck from Elon Musk. They look so cool, and yeah, it's the future. You know, it was my phone background for like the first 6 months of the announcement. You know, I looked at it every day, being like, soon. You know, one of these days. But if I could get away with it and just cruise around in that bad boy, I'd live in it. I'd go on tour. The band would take the bus, and I would take a Cybertruck and just sleep in the back.
Forget living out of a suitcase, or just be living out of a Cybertruck.
Yeah. Yeah, hell yeah.
And what's your favorite conspiracy theory?
I just want to know the truth about Carol Baskin. I know that it's low-hanging fruit and that has been hammered out into oblivion, but to know with 100% certainty that the whole country was right would feel good. You know, like if we were like, oh, we got her, like I think we would all share in a mutual, like, we did this. You know, I think that's exactly what the world needs right now, is that we were all fucking right.
That solidarity against Carol Baskin.
Yeah, exactly. We need a common enemy.
And I've just got a couple of quick fire questions to round things off. So, beer or vodka?
Vodka.
Explore outer space or explore underwater?
Outer space, for sure.
Memes or conspiracy theories?
Memes.
Cakes or pies?
Cake, for sure.
And cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Nice.
Dog guy. Yep.
All right.
Nice.
Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. Do you have anything like you want to say before we finish up?
Love you to the fans. You know, thanks for letting us play music for you guys for 10 years now. The shit will be out on Friday. The mini documentary came out too. Yeah, this is just like a thing we wanted to do to keep ourselves from going crazy while we were in quarantine. So hopefully you guys enjoy it. You know, it's free. Just do your thing. Check it out.
Cool.
Stay safe. Yeah.